Hello everyone, welcome back to the politics stream with me, Sophie, and that Jess. We're going to be starting in a couple of minutes, just to let everybody know that today we're going to be discussing Andrzej Duda, the Polish president who is a stinky garbage man who sucks. We're going to be looking at the journalism around Polish fascism in a section called The Words They Aren't Saying. We're going to be talking about the gig economy and AI in a section called I Have No Mouth and I Must Work. We're going to be talking about a QAnon company who is currently conducting a recount trying to overthrow the election in Jess's state, in a section called Recounting Arizona. So I hope you'll all stick around for that. We're going to be starting in 2 minutes. Hello, everybody. Okay, let's change that over. You can stop looking at the Zuck now. I'm gonna move this around a little bit so that we can hopefully, control things a bit better. Okay. Welcome back to the politics stream we have not settled on a name for yet. I'm Sophie, and my co-host as ever is the lovely That Jess. I just realized that I don't have text on screen for Jess, and I should do that. I should sort that out. All right, I'm gonna do that. But Jess, why don't you? One sec. I realize I'm just still muted in Discord call. Okay, but Jess, why don't you introduce yourself while I fix my Streamlabs blunders?
Sounds good.
Cool.
How's it going, everyone? I am Jess, or That Jess, on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You know, all of the things.
All the good ones, all the hits, all the big ones.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I'm working on right now is video essays, as well as I do a series on my channel with Soph called Rolling with Rainbows, which is a series looking at making tabletop role-playing games safe, fun, and for all the players, but especially with a focus on queer players, because that's sort of the experience that I can most, that I guess we can most talk from.
Yeah.
So we actually were just working on sort of sort of working on the next episode before the stream. So, if you're interested in that, go check out my channel at youtube.com/c/thatjess.
Hell yeah. Okay. Jess, what are we talking about today? What's even going on this stream? What's even happening? I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, in the 5-minute break that we sort of had before the stream starts, I was busy running and getting Major Melon. So
where would
I'm
you
a
be
little
without
bit
Major
lost.
Melon? Yeah, that's fair.
Right. Well, it's important to take your HRT.
I got mine before the stream wisely, but it is important.
Right. Me too.
So, the first thing I would like to talk about today. Is Polish fascism. Yay! Yay! It's such a fun topic. Yay! Yay! We're gonna talk about Andrzej Duda. Yay! He's such a shitty man. Yay! Okay. So
Why do I get the feeling that you actually aren't excited about Polish fascism?
I'm gonna talk about this. It's a little bit of a heavy topic from a few angles, but I wanted to focus on some reporting first of all, because often in this kind of politics, media bias can be a bit like jazz. It's about the words they aren't saying. So that's why we've titled this section Andrzej Duda and Polish Fascism, the words they aren't saying. This video is by the BBC, and it does cover things. It does cover a specific topic that doesn't get covered a lot, and that's something we're going to be looking at as a recurring theme. The oppression of queer people in Poland not getting covered. This video does look into it. There are some critiques I will offer after we've watched it. So I'm just going to start by everyone giving this a watch. All right.
People leave Poland. It's not gonna be better. I'm sorry. It's not gonna be better.
Ale nie pozwolę na to, by ideologizowano dzieci, bo to jest moja...
We're going backwards, not forwards.
People throwing stone onto us.
It was our Stonewall.
Poland has been called the worst country in the EU for LGBT rights.
And things may be about to get worse.
Dlatego dzieci muszą być absolutnie chronione agresywną seksualizacją czy jakimś adoptowaniem przez pary jednopłciowe.
Over the past few months, I've been hearing from lots of Polish LGBT people. One group who say they've left their home nation because they couldn't be themselves, and another who say they've stayed behind to fight for their rights. For those who stayed in Poland, here is their current president, Andrzej Duda. He's currently running for re-election, and activists say he's using anti-LGBT speech to drum up support. Before the coronavirus pandemic, before the election happening now, I traveled to Poland to see what life is like for LGBT people. First up, I went deep into the southeast of the country to meet Bart. Bart is an LGBT activist who was outraged by Poland's so-called LGBT-free zones.
Those declarations, yeah, they are real. They are here in this town, in other towns. They want to scare us.
Nearly 100 Polish local governments have pledged to protect traditional family values. So that's a third of Poland where any promotion of LGBT equality is not allowed. And what kind of things have you gone through here?
Our first Pride March in Lublin the people was throwing stones onto us. At second Pride March, there was like a couple who bring the explosive.
Why have you stayed behind?
I feel it's my home. I don't think it's a solution to go away and just live a better life. Maybe I'm the born fighter.
Poland is in the European Union, so Polish nationals can leave for other EU countries. And they do.
Living in my small homophobic town in Poland was very upsetting. There's no option to go back to Poland as a gay
babes, I like Lady Gaga. They don't.
This event at The Glory in London is specifically for LGBT Polish people living abroad. They felt like they had to leave Poland, but they still want to celebrate their Polish culture.
I'm super proud to be Polish, and one day I will definitely come back.
Would you ever move back to Poland?
No. I would have to just hide my sexuality. I wouldn't feel safe.
We are gay, we are queer, and we are here, and also in Poland, everywhere.
Back in Poland, I'm with Martin. He's an activist who left years ago,
And he's back for a visit.
So what is your area like now?
Oh, it's the LGBT free zone. It just feels wrong. I don't want my nation, my brothers and sisters to suffer in this country. I wanted to actually come here and see what I can do.
The protests have started right here in the center of Warsaw. LGBT groups coming together to literally fight for their rights. This protest is against an archbishop who had called LGBT people a rainbow plague.
I came back 4 years ago, and sometimes I'm mad that I came back.
Żebyśmy wrócili po prostu do naszego kraju, bo to jest nasza ojczyzna.
If I can give advice to young people, leave Poland. It's not gonna be better. I'm sorry. It's not gonna be better. It's gonna get worse and worse.
I'm currently seeing an LGBT activist currently being stopped from going into a church by the police.
Jestem po prostu potraktowany jak śmieć przez was i to robią cały czas.
We spoke to some of the congregation as they left.
Właściwie to jest pedofilia, która wkracza do szkół. Wiem coś na ten temat, ponieważ osoba z mojej najbliższej rodziny jest tej zarazie poddana.
Mogę tylko dwa pytania bardzo krótkie? No chcieliśmy, ale to nie...
I couldn't believe what people were saying so openly. But for Martin, this was a reminder of why he'd left.
That was aggressive. These are the people, the LGBT people are pedophiles. They're not LGBT.
What?
That's what they say. That's what they think.
The police started arresting LGBT protesters just for being there. Martin got caught up. Afterwards, I had a chat with him about it. Do you feel guilty for leaving?
Partially, yes. And it's a shame that I'm perhaps not here every single day to help them out with it.
I left Poland shocked at what I'd heard. I contacted the Polish government and they said LGBT people have the right to full protection against hatred, violence and discrimination. Fast forward to now. In the morning after leading the first round, Mr. Duda said that he was against same-sex couples adopting children.
He's scapegoating a minority, and it's risking that they'll be violently attacked in the streets.
When we went to the LGBT free zones, it's changed a lot.
This gay couple has been making headlines internationally, from handing out rainbow masks
Third part of the people didn't want it.
to appearing in a banned TV advert.
They changed Poland step by step. One day they can tell you we don't want you in a commercial. The other day they can tell you we don't want you in our country.
Some groups say that is exactly what they want.
We believe that this LGBT ideology is wrong, it's unnatural, and we'll do anything and everything to ban this from Poland.
The Polish people are better than politics.
No matter who will win this election, I will stay here in Poland and fight for my rights.
So it's clear many LGBT people in Poland are scared about what's to come, but they're not backing down. The fight for their rights continues.
So, something before we get into anything else that I wanted to point out is that there's graffiti on this rainbow here, and that's in London. That's in Soho, historically the gay district of London, and someone's graffitied on there, "Stay alert, save lives," because the rainbow has been co-opted away from LGBT pride and activism by the government to represent pride in the NHS and gratefulness towards the NHS for fighting coronavirus. They also repurposed red ribbon pins, which were representing victims of AIDS, to represent fundraising for COVID. it's a direct, like, deliberate attempt to erase queer people, in my opinion, and it's just a small thing that's in the background here, and like is the final, like, the like start and finish shot of the broadcast, and I just thought that was kind of interesting. Anyway, counter appropriation, NHS is gay now, nice. Anyway, so Goblin Breakfast in chat was saying they mistranslated stuff in that video. This is something I'd like to touch on. Like, we're looking at some English-speaking reporting, and I don't speak Polish. The majority of the people involved with this don't speak Polish, and the BBC is. I mean, the BBC is literally a state, news outlet, and then like the AP, who we'll look at in a minute, like works a lot with the government, especially the American government. There are tendencies, there are biases to consider here. Anyway, Jess, you have any thoughts since we just watched that, which is pretty horrible?
Yeah, I have some thoughts for sure.
You want to give me some thoughts?
Mostly to do with the tone of the segment. At some points, it seems to like go specifically for an upbeat tone. Like, I know you were joking at the start talking about Polish fascism,
right?
But at some points in the video, it seemed like it was super upbeat in a way that was sort of trivializing the actual issues that they're fighting for.
Yeah.
And I think that's also translates over into how they're doing this as like the fight for rights, and sort of framing this as if it's like LGBT people fighting just for like their right to do something, instead of I think a more accurate framing from what I've heard is more like a fight for their lives.
Yes. So let's talk about that a little bit, I guess. So the BBC does this kind of framing a lot, being a sorry about this, everyone, a British. I am aware of this. Like, the BBC does this kind of tone of reporting a lot, and if it seems kind of odd and you can't quite get what are they trying to do here, what's the reason behind this, consider that the framing is like is all about gay men. Now, we'll get into this a little bit later on, because we'll get into this a little bit later on because Duda and Polish fascists have come after gay men quite overtly and explicitly, but it's not like that doesn't make other groups like targets just as more or even more. Just as much or even more. But that's not the reason the focus is on that in the reporting. The reason the focus is on that in the reporting is because British nationalism often cloaks itself in progressivism. It often pretends like, look how far ahead of these people we are. Aren't you grateful for what you have? And obviously, I hope we're all fairly aware of the situation for trans people like myself in Britain right now, and frankly the genocide we are facing by the UK government and attempts to just eradicate us from public life, stop us from accessing healthcare, and increasingly just erase us from existence. But we'll come back around to some of that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like, what does the video talk about? What are the rights specifically that the video mentions?
Right.
It mentions the right to adopt children, and then it goes into talking about the right to exist in the country, and that's two very different things.
So it's like there are two videos you're watching, right? One is the one that is responsible reporting, where there is actually a human rights crisis going on in Poland right now, where, as you said, like, LGBT people are fearing for their lives. Another example of mistranslation that I was sent was like someone translating someone saying having to flee, having to run away from Poland, and translating it as move away. Like it's just as if it's just sort of a choice, like just move away. Like what the BBC's and then the other side of the video that you're seeing, right, is someone is the video that's almost like, good for them. Look, it's always been shit. Always, because Poland is, you don't know about Poland, so it's fair for you to just assume that they're some backwards nowhere country that's always had terrible laws and terrible attitudes, and now they're fighting to get better equality or whatever, but that's not what's actually being shown on screen and what's actually being discussed. What's actually being discussed is the pop-up of these LGBT free zones. We'll get through around this. So I want to look next at an Associated Press article. So this is regarding the fight for well, here's the thing. Like, a lot of Polish people are completely aware of the overlap of the attacks from fascists on everything going on with them, right? They're fully aware that, like, the attacks on abortion, the attacks on LGBT people, the racism, the anti-refugee rhetoric, it's all the same thing. But anyway, this is framed like largely about abortion. And to be fair, abortion is a very, it is a big deal. I'm not trying to trivialize it. Warsaw, Poland, Karolina Mikula had used her bare chest in political protest once before. When Poland's right-wing government first tried to restrict abortion rights, the actress and singer delivered an intense performance on stage in Wrocław, I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong, in 2017, that included her spreading paint in the national colours, white and red, onto her breasts and face, ending with a fist raised high. When the authorities tried again to impose a near-total ban on abortion in October this year, Mikula, along with a friend, again stripped to her waist and stood on top of a car at a busy Warsaw intersection during a protest, holding a flare high and giving the middle finger. And here's a cop being a cop, right? A woman's body is a place of political battle, the 32-year-old said from her Warsaw apartment in an interview. My gesture meant that I will do with my body whatever I want to do with it. If I want to stand naked in front of people, I will do it because it's my choice. Mikula's friend had just come from physiotherapy following a double mastectomy and wanted to encourage other protesters by showing her tattooed chest. Theirs is among many taboo-breaking acts by furious women in Poland in the past weeks. The upheaval began when Poland's constitutional court, packed with loyalists of the conservative ruling party, ruled October 22nd to ban abortions in cases of congenital fetal defects, even if the fetus has no chance of survival. So Poland has, for a while, had some of the worst and strictest abortion laws in Europe. Alongside, this is something that was mentioned in the BBC video we just watched, except the reporter said, alongside being the worst country in the EU for LGBT people, but the reporter said it as it's been called that, which makes it sound like a matter of opinion. Actually, the, what's it called? ILGP? ILG something, anyway. Ranks EU countries based on criteria that are like quite quantifiable with different ratings. This year it re-ranked to incorporate legal access for non-binary people and recognition for non-binary people, and the UK has just dropped from 9th to 10th place where it used to hold the top spot, but like Poland has been consistently the worst in that ranking. So when that reporter said it's been called this, it's not just like it's been called that by Radek. it's been called that by an institution that examines the difference in policy around the EU. Okay, but yeah, it's had some of the worst abortion laws for a while, and the government is now restricting it even more. Is the point here? They're saying exactly that. So Poland already had one of Europe's most restrictive abortion laws, and the ruling would mean that the only legal reasons for abortion would be rape, incest, or if the woman's life is in danger. Yaroslav Kaczynski, I think I got that right. Sorry again. The ruling party leader and Poland's most powerful politician had said he wanted even non-viable fetuses to be carried to birth so they can be given a baptism, a name, and a burial. This is something that's going to be important. The ideology that's driving a lot of this is like really, really devout Catholicism. The other ideology at play is white supremacy. There's a lot of neo-Nazis involved with this. But Catholicism is kind of the mass appeal shift in factor in Polish politics. The rage of Polish women and many men as well erupted onto the streets across the country, growing into the largest protest movement in 3 decades since communism fell. Protesters at first disrupted masses, as in Catholic masses to be clear, shouted obscenities at priests and spray-painted the number of an abortion hotline on church facades. Good for them. Those early provocative tactics were largely dropped after they triggered a backlash in a society where many cherish Catholic traditions. They continued their protests on the streets, however, refusing to be cowed by the authorities or by the pandemic. "My water has broken, I am giving birth to a revolution," said one sign at a protest in Warsaw on November 18th, expressing a view held by an increasing number of protesters. Yeah. The Interior Minister recently warned that the government would not tolerate a revolution made by force against the constitutional organs of the Polish state. Police have been increasingly detaining and charging protesters, and in some cases using tear gas and other force. Still, amid the massive social upheaval, the government has not formally implemented the court ruling and has spoken of coming up with a new law. But reproductive rights activists say that hospitals are already refusing to carry out abortions of congenitally damaged fetuses. This is something that's going to be really important throughout the rest of this segment, is the relationship between state and what people who have who have some kind of power over other people do. Because it's not all just in policy, and anyone who's ever argued with some racist who's like, well, they passed the Civil Rights Act, so racism is over, gets this this kind of deal already. Okay. The governing party's attempts to ban abortion with the use of a court pact with loyalists and during a pandemic seemed excessively cruel to 21-year-old Nina Michnik, a student of Arabic studies and philosophy. They did it in this critical moment when everyone was scared of the pandemic, said Michnik. She described feeling extremely lonely and fragile when the court ruling came down. They caught us in this very sensitive moment, Michnik said. That's why we were so angry. While she was stuck at home by the country's coronavirus lockdown, Michnik had stopped the boxing workouts she loves. After protests erupted, she began working out again and joined a group that scans protests for far-right troublemakers. Let's make a note of that and come back to that in a minute.
Interesting wording.
Let's make a note of this wording and come back to it in a minute. She joined a group that scans protests for far-right troublemakers. Okay. The recent protests have certainly... The recent protests have certainly become a political awakening for Polish youth, but older Poles also have taken part. They are led by the Women's Strike, a group of female activists, but many men have also joined in. What began as a revolt against abortion ruling has become a larger struggle for democracy and human rights. Before the court ruling, the people on the front lines of Poland's culture war had been LGBT rights activists who were frequently denounced by the government and church leaders as a threat to Poland's culture and families. Those grievances have now been woven together into one larger struggle against a government that the protesters hope to eventually bring down. Rainbow flags are held high at all the abortion protests. I'm so sorry if this one, you can tell me the correct pronunciation if I get this one horrifically wrong. Gabe Wilczynska, 19, has so far this year joined rallies for LGBT rights, racial justice in the US, and against sexual violence. With political convictions shaped by having been raped by a boy in high school, Wilczynska, who identifies as a lesbian and as non-binary, has gotten 5 court citations for involvement in the recent protests. Wilczynska Vilchniska. Okay. Vilchniska's forms of protests have included dressing in a red handmade costume to protest the government's attempts to control our bodies, and joining a group that has pasted slogans at night on city walls with messages including "My uterus is not a coffin" and "Abortion is a right, not a favor." In interviews, protesters often say that they feel a connection with the women of neighboring Belarus who have emerged as a driving force in an uprising against the regime of longtime authoritarian President Alexander Lukashenko. Okay, how much more? Right. The decision to have weekly rather than daily protests, for example, was inspired by what's happening in Belarus, the goal being to keep people from getting worn down by daily protests, Mikola said. Conscious of the global battles between authoritarian and democratic forces, some polls are also putting faith in US President-elect Joe Biden, who is expected to encourage democracy and human rights. We see again the same narrative as we just saw, admittedly a little more implicit in the BBC video, but here we have, right, they're putting their faith in good old Joe. He's going to sort them out. Mikola said she's hopeful that a new, better society is being born now, her hope bolstered by the sight of young people dancing on the streets during the protests and their solidarity with each other. No matter what happens politically in the short term, in the longer term, we are winning, she said. The social revolution is already happening, she continued. Society is changing. And this here, the wire coat hanger, is a common symbol seen at abortion protests in Poland as a symbol of what happens when you try to make it so people aren't having abortions, they just have more dangerous abortions instead. And I think that might be the end of the article proper, and the rest is photography. Yeah, that's it. So, save us, Biden.
Wow.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack here.
Yes. So, what are your thoughts, Jess? What are you going in? What are your immediate thoughts here?
Well, I had a lot of thoughts during the course. It was a little bit of a roller coaster. I think the most interesting is the repeat of this framing between authoritarianism versus democracy that I've seen sort of like cropping up more and more in sort of like the sort of rhetoric and propaganda of like Western media and sort of like states and spokespeople for Biden.
Yes.
Because it's sort of like, it seems like that's going to be the rhetoric that we're going to see going into this new Cold War that they want to start with China. Which I think it's really interesting to sort of see it popping up here, as well as this is an authoritarian versus a democratic struggle, which is just very interesting.
And aside, maybe we'll do another politics stream on this at some point, but my prediction around China is not that they will go into anything like the Cold War with the USSR. The USSR was encouraging worldwide revolution and was trying to get other states to revolt and then become communist states, and the America's response was like, we will kill everyone on this planet. The whole idea of like mutually assured destruction wasn't like one is stronger or the other is stronger thing. It was much more about like, don't try and inspire our workers to revolt against us, or we will kill everyone on this planet. And China being a capitalist nation, and one that actually America does a lot of like most of its business with, because it's like the other biggest country on the planet, it's unlikely to go in that sort of similar. But anyway, it may be for another time.
I guess the specific sort of correlation or parallel I'm trying to draw between sort of the previous Cold War and this one is almost entirely in the rhetoric.
I do get you. It's okay. As I said, maybe it's for another time, and we can maybe do a whole segment that is deliberately examining the Cold War and what's going on now.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted us to come back around to the use of this phrase. Let's do Control F. far right. So, there are some far right folks in Poland, aren't there? So she began working out again and joined a group that scans for far right troublemakers. Some people in chat saying that. Oh, in case you didn't see it, check Matsor's message just above. Let me just scroll up and do that. Hey, Sophie, I actually sent you a message on Twitter about this, but I wanted to say big thank you. I'm a researcher in game studies and writing an article about Disco Elysium and class struggle. I even quoted your video there. You're a huge inspiration for me and my research. Oh, I'm so glad. That's really touching. I'm going to do a video soon, hopefully, about Disco Elysium and race as well. But yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for citing me. All right. Someone in chat here, Fortunate Soul 12, said the coat hanger and green handkerchief also used in Argentina. There are connections between its feminist movements, and that's something that we should look at as a positive. We should look at this as a positive, like seeing international solidarity between movements. That's a really good thing because it's something that we can find a little lacking sometimes, and it's really, really nice to see. Even if the situation for them is fucking garbage. Right, so far-right troublemakers. This is a really interesting phrase.
It is, isn't it?
So, Jess, do you know anything about far-right troublemakers? Because I feel like your country actually just had some issues with far-right troublemakers.
Right, well,
like,
it's
I heard
very
some
broad.
guys called the brave lads, or they were called like the what were they called?
Yeah.
The chauvinist men, or
Yeah.
no, it's not. It's gone. It's not coming to me.
Prideful men.
The prideful males, something like that.
Yeah. But yeah, some no good far right troublemakers, I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm. Some far right troublemakers. And I wanted to control F there just because it's the only use of far right in the article at all. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? So I guess I wanted to talk a bit about Andrzej Duda. So let me just get up the boy. Let me just get the boy up.
Is he a far-right troublemaker?
Yeah. So there's this far-right troublemaker who's been causing a lot of trouble in Poland recently. And his name is Andrzej Duda. He is the current president of Poland. Causing a bit of a ruckus. Yeah, Ginger, that's right. He is. So... I think it would be useful to make some comparisons to US and UK politics. In places, this is so that we can just contextualize what we're seeing, and in places, this is so that we can understand the differences as well. So it's compare and contrast, you could say.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Duda...
When I see that picture,
Uh-huh.
the first thing that comes to my mind is Trump, just with sheer number of flags. There's something about these far right troublemakers.
He has tried
just
to
wanting,
fuck every one of them.
just wanting to have so many flags in the background. Just all flags.
Yep. Well, why don't we start with Trump? Yeah, if we're going to make some comparisons, and also if we're going to talk about far-right troublemakers. So, oh, Goblin Breakfast, I'm getting there. So, Duda was actually the first person to visit Trump after the first world leader, rather, to visit Trump as the pandemic restrictions started to get lifted up. He himself had coronavirus. But he was the first person to visit Trump. He was just so eager because, and I just want to, I'll get ahead of myself, but like, he's a fascist little creep. If we're getting into comparisons with like US and UK politics, you could say he's, not running with a fascist party or like an avowed fascist or whatever, but he is certainly someone who works with fascists, someone who garners the support of fascists, and his policies are fashy as hell. Not to mention his rhetoric, his style, everything. So, but first, like, who is Duda generally? When I said he's not with a party, he has the support of the PIS party, which I'm trying to resist just calling the piss party every time, but
yeah.
I'm gonna do it. The piss party, PIS, like the thing it stands for translates as law and justice, and it's, again, if we're making comparisons and relating back to politics that we as English speakers might be more familiar with, they're called the Law and Order Party, and they run Poland. They're the biggest party with the biggest majority in the Sejm right now. So they're really they're really ruling it. He himself is an independent, so it isn't technically with them, but you see this as a really common thing with fascist or fascist leaning, or whatever, if we want the veil of politeness here, whatever. Folks, like, that they don't run with a party, they run they run through a party almost. So like we saw this with Trump, that he was the outsider in the Republican primaries, and then the party had to reform itself around him when he won. We see this a lot of the time with candidates like Lawrence Fox, who just ran for London mayor. Only got like 1% or less. He actually got so little of the vote that the mayoral election committee kept his deposit. You have to give down a deposit, and if you don't get enough votes, that they keep it. But he was running with a new party and things like this. Like, fascists do this a lot. Yeah, they either fuck up an establishment party a bunch, or run as independents, or run with a new party or whatever. And yeah, so another thing that's should be familiar to English speakers is corruption. Duda has been accused of violating the constitution of Poland just a ton of times now. I'm kind of running through a little bit more of the dry policy focused stuff that will be more of a big deal to liberals first, but he's been accused of violating the constitution a ton of times. He and quite rightfully so, to be clear. A good example of this, that there was a thing in Poland called the land scandal, where a few people were basically it was basically a real estate hustle. They were when someone's in government, they can either sell state land to someone at a cut price so they can make a profit off it more, or they bump the prices that the government pays to buy land. This is actually a fairly common thing. There was this guy called Bronald Brump or something like that.
That sounds about right.
Did a deal with somewhere.
Ronald McDonald.
Thrussia or something. I don't know. Anyway, so
Russia? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, right. So it's a familiar thing, is my point. Duda also formed a trade bloc with a bunch of Eastern European countries, including Hungary, another fascist state right now, which is called I think it's called the Three Seas Pact. Maybe I should just check that one. It's the Three Seas. Is it Initiative? I'm gonna try Pact and see what I get. It was the Initiative. I should have just gone through with that. But you can see that it runs between 3 different seas, and hence the name. And he was one of the founders of it, and one of the 3 leaders who kicked it off. And a part of it is that it aligns with his own rhetoric that he ran on, which is to do with rejecting the EU and wanting to leave the EU. Again, if we're doing comparisons, this might be familiar to some fascists that we've seen in the UK recently.
Can you go back to that page?
I can, yeah, absolutely.
If you go up to the name, something interesting I saw in there was that the name is also written in Latin, and that's just like alarm bells going off in my head.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I see that.
Who's
on
doing that? Why is that interesting? Anyway.
Right. Why are we putting our name into Latin?
Yeah, that's a classic
very
move.
strange.
It's classy.
thing
You
to
know what?
do
That's a good
for-
brand.
for
That's
an organization.
I think it's classy. Anyway, it's got no troubling implications whatsoever. What do you mean? So, so the Three Seas
None at
Initiative.
all.
So that's relevant because Duda, is very much against the European Union. When the European Union gave Poland a refugee quota to fill, which is very common in the EU. Basically, the EU has been mopping up for America and Britain's infant garbage splat pants mess by absorbing a whole ton of refugees who've been fleeing from Syria and other countries that we fucked with recently. And Germany's taken the largest number of them, but like, nonetheless, like, anti-EU rhetoric often focuses on how Germany is trying to force you to take these refugees, despite, again, them taking the most of them. Duda pulled a move there, which is exactly typical of something you will recognize as well from Trump, which was that he said outright he's not taking any of them, and then his minister, who is actually in charge of that, in charge of immigration, just took a lesser number anyway, because like, other people have to figure out the details. It'll still be aligned sort of generally with what the most reactionary crowd want. It'll still suck, but it doesn't have to be actually what he said, because it's all virtue signaling. It's just signaling to fascist virtues. All right, so I want to focus a little for a second on some outright fascists who call themselves fascists. So,
they're not far right troublemakers.
Well, these are the kind of boys who would be far right troublemakers who you might
scan in a crowd.
Who Mishnik might have been looking out for with her pals. They
it's
actually
like a fun game that you play on a car ride or something.
Right, yeah. So they focused very, very briefly before moving on the all-Polish youth, which was something like Młodzież Czechpolski, I think was that, but I'm probably absolutely butchering that one. But the all-Polish youth are like a youth contingent of a larger and more historic fascist movement that dates back to like when Poland got its independence. Essentially, the independence like faction quickly became a far right faction, and we're talking about back in like 1920 here. Who close enough, but who cares about their crap? Fascist groups. Okay, thanks for the kindness there. They, as I say, are a youth contingent relating to this group who they're called something like the National Democrats or something, and that's again because they started out as people who were trying to just get Poland independent, and then because they were then the Polish nationalists, it became a lot more focused on how German Jews were trying to control them. Very cool stuff. Anyway, so that was who they had ties to. Then there's the NOP, which is a political party who are just basically hyper-fascists. They're operative in Poland at the moment. You could think of like I don't know, like, I wouldn't know what to say even. Like, I think there's better British context, because we had things like the National Front, we had things like the BNP. UKIP was thought of as being like the BNP, but then UKIP actually got votes and became way more mainstream. Anyway, that's like a worthwhile comparison. And then there's another comparison which I was going to actually compare to the Proud Boys, which is a group called the the National Radical Camp, which in Polish the acronym is ONR. So here they are. So these are a couple of groups. As you can see, they share the same icon, which is a like classical Polish fascist icon of an arm holding a sword. This poster for the NOP, by the way, says fascism. We're worse. Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you're going to mention that poster.
I scrolled down to just let it be on screen a little bit for you to enjoy there.
Amazing. What a great poster.
And
anyway,
right.
These far-right troublemakers,
so
who really knows what they want or what they're up to?
So there are far-right troublemakers here. So these guys are associated with the Falange, which is named after a Spanish, I believe, fascist who had a lot of influence throughout Europe, and a lot of like Phalangist groups are like fascists throughout Europe today. Often been described as fascist and sometimes as neo-Nazi. There you go. That's a good description. And I'm trying to make these comparisons to some US and UK politics, again, because like if our English-speaking journalism is not going to be you know focusing on what's actually going on here and just at most calling them far-right troublemakers, I think we need some actual comparisons that make some sense. So you could think of these guys as a little like the Proud Boys, but if you're actually more familiar with anti-fascism in the US, they're more like Atomwaffen, or another one of these neo-Nazi groups that are really like extremely violent. Oh, here we go. It says Falange is Polish for phalanx. So I might be wrong about that one. I think I think I saw Phalangist was related to Spanish fascist movement, but I could be wrong. Anyway, so the ONR, the National Radical Camp, have I got the thing anywhere? This is what I've got listed in my section for I've got a section in my notes here called cringe fascist stuff, because as I was saying to you just before the stream, Jess, fascists are just incredibly cringe sometimes, and sometimes it's just fun to focus on that a little bit. So here I wanted to focus on one, and this is the most important point that we're actually discussing today, Andrzej Duda working with the ONR to organize a march on the anniversary of Poland's independence, which, you know, you can see unsurprisingly really has become like a big hotspot for nationalist and fascist groups. The Spanish party was also named after Phalanx. Okay, well that's probably what I read before then. I'm trying not to read too much of this article because it's actually kind of a long one. But the second thing I wanted to say about today in this article was the head of the ONR telling Duda to, quote, let me just see if I can find it, take off your yarmulke. Duda, if it's not clear to people, is not actually Jewish, but it's just one of these classic fascist things where like they focus so much on like their aims of terrorizing people and making everyone's lives worse that they still get it done, but along the way to that their backstabbing and their infighting is just unfucking believable. Like this guy, you know, the PIS party and has worked with ONR. Duda here is organizing this march with them, and then during that they're basically accusing him of being a Jew, or accusing him of pandering to Jews, I guess it would be the more correct thing. It was also one of the organizers of an anti-refugee rally in Wrocław, in 2015, at which an effigy of a Jew was burned. These are fucking nasty guys, and yeah, and it was about his wife. Yeah, I know his father-in-law is Jewish, but like my point being that, like, where you'd expect people to just have a basic amount of, like, I'm not gonna fucking cooperate with these guys who, you know, say this thing based on my father-in-law and my wife and my kids. Therefore, you know, he's still just going with them. It's again, if we were going to make some comparisons to people we're more familiar with in English-speaking politics, you could think of Jared Kushner and, like, how much of the Proud Boys or other, like, fascist groups have been openly anti-Semitic towards Trump's family, and he doesn't give a fuck. All right, let me just read a bit of this article. So, in 2019, prosecutors began an investigation into ONR's branch in Lublin for the crime of propagating fascism. It had published a tweet celebrating Belgian Nazi collaborator and wartime SS officer Leon de Grelle as one of the greatest national revolutionaries. The same branch in January 2018 tweeted an extract from the interwar ONR's program in which it promised to, quote, fight international Jewry, which is a, quote, parasite living on national organisms. Poland's current education minister, a controversial hardliner who has been prominent in PIS's anti-LGBT campaign, in 2017 and 2018 attended marches organized in Lublin by the same ONR branch. At one, he addressed the crowd from a stage above the ONR logo, giving a speech in which he defended the organization from anti-Polish politicians who criticized it, reported Wirtualna Polska at the time, which is a news organization. ONR's former spokesman Tomasz Kalinowski had an image of de Grelle as his Facebook cover photo. He is now the deputy head of the body that organizes the Independence March. Its head is a former leader of ONR, Robert Bałkiewicz. ONR has previously invited Italian neo-fascist group Forza Nuova to attend the event. I think Forza Nuova are the people that, if you saw recently, there was a video on Twitter that was circulating of a rally where a bunch of Italian fascists were Zeke Heiling and giving the Hitler salute, giving the Nazi salute. That was them. In 2018, the government and President Andrzej Duda coordinated with the organizers of the Independence March to hold simultaneous processions along the same route to mark the centenary of Poland regaining its independence. So that's the really important bit there. I just wanted to also say, like, you know, fucking cringe-ass fascists being fascists, absolutely typical. And then for a kind of lighter note, Duda also proposed, like, wanted to build, or has built? No, wanted to build a fort called Fort Trump in honor of special big boy Donald Trump, his favorite man. I don't know. It's just, you know, it's just worth mentioning because it's funny and cringe. And
if you build a monument to your god, you may earn his favor.
Right, which is a funny thing because, I mean, this would be a whole hours-long tangent in and of itself, like Trump's rhetoric against China, but actually, again, China is one of the US's biggest trade partners, and they're never, it's you know, and actually he loves doing business with China and whatever, but Duda has, like, really, really bodied up to Trump and to Trump supporters in America, and at the same time, the trade bloc that I showed you before, the 3 Cs initiative, is has been described by Duda in his efforts to make them all leave, like, to make them all separate away from the EU. He has, like, talked about them being, like, the route for Chinese trade, so if for people who aren't familiar, perhaps, like, and again, maybe we'll talk about this another time because it's a pretty interesting topic that's worth looking into. There's a thing called the Belt and Road Initiative being done by the Chinese, by the Communist Party of China, and it's kind of an imperialist effort where they're, like, building a lot of roads in countries outside of China, like in building roads in other countries, and they're fully funding them so that there are, you know, trade routes directly to them. You know the phrase, like, all roads lead to Rome, and it's the idea that, like, Romans were the ones who built all the roads, so that's why all the roads go there. It's kind of the same thing. Anyway, just another like classic move by Duda to get away from the authoritarianism of Germany, you know, and Angela Merkel's milquetoast centrism by you know, sucking on the toes of both Trump and China simultaneously. Okay.
Yeah.
Really, really classic and cool stuff. So,
right. Well, it's all about like just creating this enemy to pit people against, isn't it? And that's sort of like what I was meaning with the Cold War rhetoric. Is just
I completely
you have to terrify people.
You're right. You're right about the rhetoric. Yeah, you're completely right about the rhetoric.
You have to get people afraid of Germany,
right?
And you know, whoever else, depending on who you are. In the U.S. right now, it's China. You have to have that enemy to rally people around.
Yeah, exactly. I do completely agree about that. Don't worry. So someone could be a pronunciation guide in chat here if I get this horribly wrong again. But Marek Jedrzejewski, I think it's that, is an archbishop in Poland, and he's been a big figure in this like Catholic-focused reactionary fascist rhetoric, and he called LGBT people a disease, but specifically it's sometimes be translated, and this is something I'm not totally sure about myself, and this is somewhere where like people whose actual fucking job it is to, you know, report for the BBC on this could look into, but has been Yen, I missed that, okay. Jędraszewski, okay. Like he has called LGBT people a disease, but specifically he called them a pestilence. So, you know, in Catholic imagery, he's relating LGBT people to the end of the world, like something that must be stopped at all costs. And that's why I focus on this as this kind of rhetoric, because it is incredibly fascist rhetoric. It's not just like, I mean, calling LGBT people a disease to begin with is fucking awful, but it's important to understand that connotation, you know?
Right, absolutely. I mean, we've already attacked and dethroned God, and now there's no one left to save you, Jędraszewski. There's no one left to save you.
Exactly. And this goes absolutely hand in glove with Duda's rhetoric, where campaigning both in 2016 and in 2020, he repeatedly used this rhetoric that it's a little difficult to repeat it because it's reactionary moon logic, so the noun adjective relationship is kind of fucked, but he says LGBT is a foreign ideology. Again, like, you know, you would say like the ideology of whatever, fucking fascists. Anyway, he's likened it to the way that the USSR would like quote on like, you know, would train people to like have, you know, Stalinist thought or whatever. This is a repeated
ideology is when you get brainwashed into something. That's
exactly
when it's an ideology.
Yeah. And here's another short article focusing a little bit on some of that. So this is inside Poland's, quote, LGBT-free zones. In Poland, dozens of small towns have declared themselves free of LGBT ideology. Politicians' hostility to gay rights has become a flashpoint pitting the religious right against more liberal-minded Poles, and gay people living in these areas are faced with a choice: emigrate, keep their heads down, or fight back. And I just wanted to skip ahead here, actually, because there's a quote from this guy. So this fucking guy. Here we go. Right. So communists used to wave the red flag and told people they were fighting for the poor, for workers, for the peasants, he says. Now these activists hold up the rainbow flag and say they are fighting for sexual minorities. It was not true, and it is not true, and since we lived through communist times, we have a duty to tell others how dangerous such ideas can be. What a charming fellow. What a really charming fellow. You know, it is actually just the same when there was a government who was oppressing your country and insisting that you conform to their ideology. You are in the same situation as that now, my guy. You are in the same situation as that right now. It's just not quite the way round that you're making out to be, but whatever. Anyway, so the point is, Duda and his supporters have repeatedly made these comparisons to communism, and communist brainwashing is the rhetoric that they, compare it to a lot. And moreover, they repeatedly insist that gay people are pedophiles. So this is something I wanted to get to. Duda's rhetoric, he constantly insists that gay men who want to adopt a baby, it's because they want to, that they're pedophiles. He insists that their processes of indoctrination, they will abuse children, and then they will also turn those children into gay pedophiles as well. This is his constant insistence. It is aligned with some stuff that honestly, frankly, was really common in Catholic teaching in English-speaking countries as well until very recently. For people who don't, know about the Catholic reforms from the 60s or whatever, I think it was called Vatican II. I don't know if Jess, you know about this, but
yeah, I know a little bit about it. This is the pretty big sort of there's a pretty big reformation where it's Mass no longer has to be given only in Latin. It can be given in local languages.
Yes.
And I think it was
right.
there was some other changes to sort of make it more sort of palatable to more modern.
The Catholic Church was facing crises of popularity, and parts of that was to do with their stances against progressive politics, and parts of it were to do with just incredibly archaic things they were doing, performing mass in Latin still in 1960. And so there were these reforms to try to basically save the church. And while those reforms don't actually include something as modern or far-reaching as being okay with gay marriage, it does align with more progressive politics generally, and where there are Catholics today who are okay with gay marriage, those people aren't awfully infested with the horrible brainworms. But there are people who explicitly reject these kinds of reforms, and this is where you get where you get, if you encounter online mentions, online or in the press, people who are tradcaths, those people often are people who reject those reforms, and that's a lot of what's going on here. Anyway, so sticking with LGBT people, I got some stats, and I don't have the stuff up on here because I was researching on my laptop before, so I'm just going to read from my notes with the close-up cam on. So, oh my goodness, I made the window too big. Oh, heckin'. Okay. So, in the year that Duda came to power, which was 2016, the number of officially reported hate crimes to the police more than tripled, nearly quadrupled. And they've been that high ever since. So it's been a persistent thing that they were around 200 hate crimes a year reported across the whole of Poland up until 2015. There were a couple of high years, but that was the general average. And then since Duda has been in, it has been consistently like 3 to 4 times as high, and it's getting higher. And something you're seeing really specifically in the last couple of years is there's been a massive rise in anti-Semitic hate crimes specifically. But part of the problem here is if you look into the statistics around this, the police statistics for hate crimes in Poland report the overwhelming majority of hate crimes being racist or xenophobically motivated, which makes sense because a lot of white nationalists view Poland as a potential haven for white nationalists, a potential ethno-state, and a new neo-Nazi paradise. This actually ties into the first time I was ever aware of Polish fascism, which was that a few years ago, the Polish government was running ads on YouTube denying Poland's role in the Holocaust, insisting that it was like 100% the Nazi occupation, no Polish government, the Polish people, no Polish people were cooperative with the Nazis at all. And that's actually something that's kind of an interesting one, right? Because I've been saying that they are neo-Nazis, and they are, but fascists and even specifically Nazis don't actually have a straight lineage like this all the time. There are neo-Nazi groups in the UK who are really proud of Britain for beating the Nazis who Heil Hitler. We're expecting fascists to be a little smarter than they are here, basically. but it ties in with what I was saying before about the way that the reporting on this issue is saying, look at Poland, they're so backwards for not being accepting of gay men, and therefore we're so great, right? This actually aligns with British nationalism and even with British fascism, because it's British exceptionalism that is our narrative of us being better than other people, other places, other countries, and that, our progressivism, or nominally our progressivism, is a big part of that. So back to those hate crime statistics. I'm sorry to be diving into something so quite so grim, but in the police statistics, the vast overwhelming majority of hate crimes are racially motivated or ethnically motivated, and against refugees most specifically. And something you look at, which doesn't really match up to the fact that a third of the country are calling gay people pedophiles and declaring the country, declaring their neighborhoods LGBT-free zones, is that last year, Poland reported 20 crimes against people based on sexuality or gender identity. And the year before, 15, and the year before that, 12. It's still on the rise. You still see this trend of it rising, but in the police statistics, it's tiny little bit. And then when you look, again, I'm sorry I don't have this visual, it's on my laptop, but if you look in the non-police statistics reported, through other organizations or internationally, you see that the hate crimes against LGBT people are actually rivaling the number of hate crimes against Jews, or even just against refugees. So,
well, police statistics are notoriously accurate, aren't they?
Right, absolutely. So I have 2 more points before I want to make before I end this segment. So the one is that it's really important to understand that when we're talking about far-right troublemakers, these crimes, this violence against people, isn't done by people who have nothing to do with Duda, with the piss party, with the political establishment whatsoever, in exactly the same way that the KKK and the Proud Boys have nothing, you can't say that they have nothing to do with Trump when Trump won't disavow David Duke, and says of the Proud Boys, stand back, stand by, this kind of stuff. Got Goblin Breakfast says, mention Ordo Iuris, and I actually don't know what that is, so I'm just going to look that up real quick. But this is a concept that is put around sometimes called stochastic terrorism. So, Jess, do you have a familiarity with what this term means? Stochastic terrorism?
Yeah, absolutely. Based on what my knowledge of the term is, it's sort of this more modern form of terrorism that arises from more stricter policing of traditional sort of like terrorist actions where, you know, you would gather in like a cell of people. It's sort of like the modern evolution of it, where terrorism is no longer planned out or carried out via like a larger group or a larger leadership. It's sort of encouraged either consciously or subconsciously through rhetoric and through sort of communications and media online, so that there isn't really a direct trace, and it you know, you get all of these lone wolf sort of white supremacist terror attacks,
right?
Without any of them actually talking to each other at all.
Right, which is something which is also worth mentioning directly in relation to Poland and comparisons to other countries, because the New Zealand, the Christchurch mosque shooter wrote a lot of stuff on his weapons, on his like body vest and stuff like this, where like basically he was so there's like a weird thing which is like in like fasci online circles, there's a belief in a sort of like meme magic where like they believe that like Pepe like magically elected Donald Trump, things like this, which is again fascists being extremely cringe, but like fascists have always been really, really into the occult and magic. But like he wrote a lot of stuff on his gun, and like for example he wrote a name of a historical Polish figure who's involved in the Crusades, because he viewed himself as being on the side of the, you know, the white people in Eastern Europe defending Christendom from the Saracens, this kind of shit, you know. I'd like to shout out Goblin Breakfast, who actually did a lot of work putting together some research materials for me, and also translating some stuff from Polish, which was really, really, really useful. I'm not currently finding the Ordo Iuris thing. I've got like one reference to it in one of the PDFs, but I'm just going to read what's being said in chat. Yeah, they're related to the like the hate crimes, to the pogrom buses. Their symbols are used by the PIS, and they're like financially supported by the PIS. They are establishing international support. They're in contact with the USA hate organizations. They are opening a university with the support of, among others, UK Baroness. I wonder which UK Baroness that will be. How about I have a look into that next? That would probably be a fun tangent for everybody. Oh my goodness. Dama Sophie having a good serious political stream. Me watching. Boo plushie, boo plushie, boo plushie. Yep. It's a good one. Someone sent me this for my birthday. My birthday that's coming up. It was on my Amazon wishlist. Baroness Cox.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Oh god, there's a spectre haunting Europe. Jesus fucking Christ. They do try appropriating Sobieski, who was fine with Muslims, not just with Ottoman state. Anyway, I encourage others to look into Ordo Iuris, which the spelling's in chat. Actually, for people who are looking at the archive just now, it's I'll get the screen up here. So, blah 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 blah. This is something I didn't look into a load. Sorry about the slip up there. It's there's been a lot to look through here, and I wanted to focus on the reporting a little bit as the main thing here. But this is Yeah. Legal think tank advocating for the protection of fundamental rights and values, family and marriage, pro-life, economic freedom. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds, yeah. Auto Eurus and fueling Poland's culture wars. Friendly and open, Tymoteusz Zich doesn't appear to be the sinister presence he and others at Poland's Auto Eurus. This is such classic fucking reporting. Why do people always fucking do this shit? Just like, I met with a Nazi and he was like really cool. He was really cool and polite. He was a really nice guy.
I mean, they kind of did that in the BBC video at the
Oh, totally.
start.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's really ridiculous. Okay. He had such great table manners. Yeah, exactly this kind of shit. And so sorry, I'm getting a little sidetracked with this bit just now because I clearly let this one slip through the cracks a little bit. But the point is that like the things that people in government do encourage terrorist actions and the like extreme reactionary violence and shit like the sorry, I'm like torn between doing like looking at the stuff that Poppycock sent me right now and getting into the point that I was gonna say just now. Oh my goodness. Wow, Knights of the Pope, huh? These guys are pretty fucking cringe, huh? Jesus Christ.
Oh wow. There's that sort of Latin heritage.
Right, yeah, I think you called it with the Trimarium thing earlier. Jesus.
Yeah, fascists are like this.
Yeah.
They be like this sometimes.
They do love their Latin. I'll be honest about this one, like Goblin Breakfast did a fantastic job, like shout out again and massive credit to them. And I between looking through everything they've been sending me and also trying to do my own research so that I'm not entirely dependent on their points, I haven't been able to look at absolutely everything. So I'm sorry for missing out there that way. But yeah, I wanted to focus again, like I said, on the reporting and the stuff that we've seen, because what I want to encourage people to do going away today is to look further into this stuff, because the kind of reporting that we're seeing in English-speaking journalism is kind of dog shit, right? We've got like one mention of the term far right in that AP article, and it's referring to a random group of people, these troublemakers who might be at protests, shit like this, right? We have the BBC LGBT correspondent who was, who goes to Poland and then interviews interviews gay men only. And as I said before, like there's a part of that which is somewhat fair, because like a lot of this rhetoric has been focusing super hard on gay men, but really it's part of constructing a narrative, which is that a little bit down. It's okay. It's part of constructing a narrative which is like Britain is so far ahead, look at Poland so far behind, they don't even accept gay men. And what they're obviously not talking about is the fucking atrocious situation in Britain right now with trans people. So let's just look for a second at something kind of spectacular here, which is the LGB Alliance. Boos and hisses in chat. The LGB Alliance, who just got awarded charity status in the UK, and they are a group that claim to be fighting for the rights of lesbians, gays, and bisexuals, and actually all they are there for is attacking trans people. All they spend all their time doing
weird.
is attacking trans people. And they were just awarded charity status in the UK, to much upset, very rightfully. And here they are, cheering on the setup of a new branch of their organization in Poland. And you'd think, with everything that I've shown us today, that an LGB Polish branch would be spending all their time focusing on Duda and what a piece of shit he is. But
if there's any branch of the LGBT alliance that is going to be like the most active in fighting for gay rights, it's going to be this one, right?
You would really, truly hope, because they are the LGB alliance, after all. This is what they care about. They don't just care about attacking trans people. They certainly,
trans isn't even in the name.
They aren't just there to divide the movement, making it easier for fascists to kill everyone, after all. Let me just take a big sip of my coffee and hit translate tweet here. The political and cultural dimension of trans ideology is not about overthrowing artificial categories of masculinity and femininity, but precisely about the consolidation and an attempt to legally replace the category of biological sex with perceived sex. So...
Well, hold on a second. What does this have to do with LGBT issues?
Well,
I'm a little bit confused about this.
See, what's kind of weird there, right, in my opinion, is that if you look at that rhetoric, it's kind of, just kind of, a little bit, exactly the fucking same as the way that Duda talks about all queer people, is how they're talking about trans people. And...
That's so strange.
If... I want to, if we're thinking about the way that English-speaking journalism is being done about these issues, the fact that English-speaking the English-speaking countries those journalistic institutions are aligned with have their own problems with queer people. It's not unrelated. It can never be unrelated. The LGB Alliance just got fucking charity status here, and then they don't talk at all about trans people in their coverage of Poland. The rainbow symbol is co-opted by the UK government to mean be proud of the NHS, be proud of the UK and how hard we're working to fight coronavirus. The red pin is appropriated away from victims of AIDS for victims of coronavirus, and then while they're reporting about it, they're just talking about, gays fighting for their rights as if it's progress and as if it's a good thing and not as if it's a horrific human rights abuse. They won't write that it's a far-right government, just that there are far-right troublemakers, because if you had to admit that Poland has a fascist government, you'd have to admit that a lot of other places maybe had at least fascist-leaning governments too, right? And that's where I think I'd like to end out the section today. Before we go into our next section, I'd just like to say... another massive shout out to Goblin Breakfast, Poppycock, who's been doing, just sending me just a fantastic ton of literature and translating a bunch of stuff as well. And if I look into it and realize that I've really, really fucked up not looking more into Auto-Eurus, I will come back and do an addendum here, just to let everyone know. I
have a question.
Hit me with your question before I give my final thing I was going to say.
Sure. So... I have learned so much about the rise of Polish fascism today.
Yes.
What can I do to help my Polish comrades over there fighting against fascism?
If you hit learn more, the command !learn more in chat, you can get a link here to a card which links a bunch of resources explaining the situation in Poland and also linking to some charitable organizations. This is a little bit of an old one at this point, and I don't know how often it's updated, but I hope that these charitable organizations, you can still donate to, you can still get involved through here. Yeah, so it's the command learn more, and the link is lgbtqpl.card with 2rs.co. And you can learn a whole ton there, and you can even get involved or give some money.
If for instance, I'm in the future right now, and I'm watching this on YouTube, would that link be in the description?
I'm sure I can try very hard to make sure that link is in the description, yeah.
Fantastic. Those only questions.
Those are great questions. Thank you so much. I wanted to say, as a final concluding statement, go and do your own research. Go and look into this stuff more, because there's so much stuff to look into. There is so much going on, and the people who are fighting back against this stuff, they have, international solidarity with other, groups fighting back against similar, similar total bullshit regimes, like as people were saying, like in South America. And the least we can do is have some solidarity with them ourselves. One thing I forgot to mention, where I didn't even get to touch on, but there was a fantastic interview by the Anarchist Federation. They have a magazine called Organized, just Organized with an exclamation point. And in their 93rd issue, they interviewed some Polish activists, and it was a very good interview, and I'd recommend people checking that out. I've subscribed on Patreon, and supporting more left journalism is, always a good move. So, check that out too. Yeah, the most important thing I think here is do your own research, look into this stuff as much as you can, and find ways to support and give solidarity, because, as this quote says, if we walk separate, they shall hang us together. And that doesn't just apply to us, it also applies to the fact that the BBC is trying to pretend like Britain's got no problem with trans people and not report on that while it's reporting on what Poland is doing, and it's clearly having an effect on the way it's reporting on that, and that is utter dog shit. Okay? As I said at the start, the thing about media bias is it's a little like jazz. It's all about the words they're not saying. So, I think I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll be back with a little discussion of the gig economy and AI. All right, everyone.
Can't wait.
What do you think, Jess? Should we give them a short segment? Just a tiny little short one?
Okay, well, what kind?
Just a tiny one. Just like a palate cleanser. Just a little one.
I'm not aware of this, but I'm absolutely for it.
Just a little treat, you know, just a little tiny little segment that's just maybe like it's not as heavy as talking about hate crimes and stuff. It's got a happy ending.
Okay.
You're aware of this. It's the middle segment. It's the gig economy one. You know this.
Oh. Well, see, that's the thing, is I thought we were going to talk about this for like at least 7 hours.
Oh my god.
I guess I shouldn't have prepared this much material for this segment.
Oh no! Okay, so let's go look at an article, which is really just an example of a kind of article. An article which is really just a kind of article. Like how a guy can just be a type of guy.
I've heard of these things before. So it's good to have an example of one.
Yeah.
So you said it's an article?
Yeah. So this is a piece titled "How AI is Fueling the Rise of the Gig Economy," and this is the start of our segment. I have no mouth and I must work. Gig economy and AI. Right. Okay. AI has multiple usages within business processes, but how can it improve a company's chance of successfully tapping into the gig economy while helping the economy to mature? Tech advancements today are not only directly influencing the nature of gig work, but have also resulted in business changes that facilitate the growth of the gig economy. So has been the case with the use of AI in employing gig workers. With a large percent of companies today waking up to the potential of digital tech within their processes, the prospects of a gig economy seem appealing to many. With the shelf life of many technical skills also shortening as a result of tech advancements, companies often resort to working with freelance skilled professionals on a project basis, rather than hiring a full-time employee for the position. Lower labor costs, less contractual obligations, and the ability to hire for niche skills that are some benefits that employers drive out of the gig economy, and the use of AI has made this process more streamlined. Oh, my camera's frozen. That's annoying.
Oh no.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Lower labor costs. Yeah, let's just go over that sentence again, because this one's really grinding my gears. Lower labor costs, less contractual obligations, and the ability to hire for niche skills are some benefits that employers, I think that's meant to say drive out of the gig economy, and the use of AI has made this process more streamlined. How cool for them. Are you excited for them, Jess?
They're saying the quiet part out loud. They're not supposed to say this. They're supposed to say gives workers more flexibility in their schedules.
Okay, let's click off that god-awful article. So we wanted to just like have a chat about the gig economy. What is the gig economy for people who live on the moon? Tell us, Jess.
Well, so I guess first we're going to talk about what an economy is.
Oh, shit.
It's like a god that people who accrue enough favor with their god.
Sounds like bullshit. Show me the economy, Jess. Show it to me. Put it in my hand.
Well, I'm afraid it doesn't quite work like that. But basically what the gig economy is, quote unquote gig economy, is just like freelance work.
Yes.
It's being a contractor out to like your the employing company instead of working directly for them.
Very
and
cool.
that skirts a lot of labor laws.
Right. So this is the thing we just wanted to have, like, and this is why I say it's kind of a short segment, but it's just something to think about if people haven't necessarily thought about this stuff before. Like, why is the gig economy called an economy when for most people it's a mode of work, right? If you pick up shifts with Uber, or you do Deliveroo, or hospitality shifts, Natalie used to do a bunch of this, or as the article was highlighting here, even people like programmers taking freelance work through the gig economy. This has been perceived as a mode of work, and yet it's called an economy. Well, the origin of this is the idea that we're talking about a labor market, right? The idea that that businesses are buying your labor off you, but the problem for businesses is that they don't always want to be buying your labor 9 to 5 days a week and giving you things like health benefits and paid leave and maternity leave. They don't want to give you stuff like that. That's all stinky and costs money.
Right.
But there's the thing, like that's what you were alluding to when you said that, like, they're saying the quiet part out loud, right? Because a lot of this marketing is always around the idea that the gig economy is more freedom for workers.
Well, you can be your own boss.
Right, exactly. You're self-employed. Right.
Basically, you're self-employed with all the drawbacks of being self-employed and none of the benefits.
Right. Hey, Conrad. Conrad Zimmerman's in chat and says, how will the investors profit if all the money is given to the employees in the form of benefits? Disgusting. How will the investors who, they started the company which creates the jobs, how are they going to make the money? How are they going to make that sticky, icky cashish? So, I guess, yeah, we wanted to talk about AI in relation to the gig economy, because there's always this focus on, like, it as a technological development, right? Which I thought was interesting because when there are stories about how terrible AI will be, like the tyrannical, authoritarian potential of AI to enslave the human race, or Yudkowsky's basilisk and whatever, like it's always there's always this idea that there's something very natural because it's very logical about AI, but actually AI is for specific purposes. And I mean, you know a bit about this.
A little bit, yeah.
Like, it's set to tasks, and this is something that is, like, often kind of disregarded in popular science writing, because again, it's this assumption that there's this sort of superior mind, superior being that can be like applied to something and will automatically fix it. And the thing that's interesting to me about that idea is that they're using AI in a lot of these contexts in place of something they've been using for a while, right? It's this magical higher entity who you can apply to any problem, which will magically fix it because it's just logical and also kind of natural, right? It's a replication of natural human tendencies and natural logic, and applying it to any problem you have will instantly solve it for you. If I'm losing people here, I'm saying that AI gets talked about a bunch the same way the free market does, right? Like the exact same way as the free market, which is kind of fucking wild. And
that is interesting,
right? Well, but that's the thing, isn't it? Right? We talk as if like machine learning or AI can be applied to things, and it will improve things. It will, as they put it, streamline the process. Things like this. In the next paragraph of that article, it said, Finding the right talent remains to be a difficult proposition for both employers and HR professionals. Which is just like, oh, it's really hard finding human beings using, society and like human interaction. So we should just like cut out the middleman there. Yeah, but like what's interesting, right, is that AI is talked about a lot. Oh my god, my camera froze. The same thing happened again.
Oh,
At least I look adorable this time. Hang on a sec. And I'm back. Okay.
Welcome back.
That article's tone is nothing short of craven. Yeah, it seriously is, and that's what I mean when I say it's just an example of a kind of article, because this is the kind of article that gets written about machine learning and AI and how it can be applied to problems in business. And I guess part of what I wanted to say was like, when we look at the wider trend of talking about AI, it's that AI has been applied to a specific problem, and then in the fiction story or the theorizing about it, or even in reality increasingly, it's gotten out of hand in some way or another at doing that specific task. And this business writing about AI masks tries to mask, and at the same time almost inherently exposes some of the bullshit in the market and in business, right? Because it's like they're talking there about machine learning and AI can be used to get the benefits out of the gig economy. What's the gig economy? Well, the gig economy is this cool new kind of work where you use an app, pardon me, and it's driven by an algorithm. And you can get these cool benefits out of it: lower labor costs, less contractual obligations, the ability to hire for niche skills, or if you're a worker, you get to be your own boss, and all cool sorts of stuff like this. And if you have any kind of passing familiarity with leftist theory and talking points, you know that actually none of this has to do with technology at all, and what they're actually selling you is the free market. They're just selling you the free market. and they're just trying to get around labor laws, like as Jess was saying before, right? So like people who proselytize the free market as an inherent good and talk about government intervention as evil no matter what, and therefore are against labor laws, like they talk the exact same way about markets as these kind of tech articles talk about, like tech and business articles talk about AI and machine learning. And I just think that's super interesting. Yeah,
that is super interesting, because you can sort of see, like, maybe this is like the new generation, the new evolution of this free market religion. Because you definitely see this with like the tech bros, or the people who are into tech, and like Elon Musk and all these other people, because like they truly believe that all of these amazing things that they get in their life, like food delivered to my door, Amazon packages delivered same day, they all look at that and they think, oh my god, this is due to the wonders of technology,
which is fucking wild.
Has granted me this awesome, ability to do these things. And to some level, there is like a technology involved in it, but that's like, you don't get Amazon packages same day without a Amazon flex worker being watched by an AI and being forced to sort of like do piss into a bottle.
Exactly, yeah. Fulfillment center workers having to piss in bottles because they're not allowed any breaks is the reason you get that, not because of the AI. Like it's not the miracles of the AI. What the AI offers employers and businesses is often having to have a conscience. That's one of the things that's most crucial to it. In fact, one of the people who did a lot of really early machine learning and AI work said, like, an AI should never run a business or be in charge of people for this exact reason. Like, it was the first thing they said about it. And this was like back in the 60s, I think. But wow, no thoughts had empty. Oh my god. Oh geez. Right, there it was. Okay, so one of the things that I think is super interesting about AI is that it offers people an opportunity to displace logic and the logical steps of a system onto this thing with some agency. And that's one of the things that I think is super interesting when you look at Elon Musk. Elon Musk tries to warn about the terrors of AI or whatever, and to me it's pretty clear that he's displacing like the fear of the systems that currently exist in the world, right? That he, the richest man on earth, could do something about, and he's displacing that onto this like hypothetical, magic, logical entity, data from Star Trek thing, right? That just like does the task that it's applied to ruthlessly. And instead of ever stopping to ask ourselves, hey, maybe the task is wrong, right? What comes out of it is Musk saying things like, this is the dangers of AI we should be aware of. And to be clear about that, if I wasn't clear about that, I'm saying Elon Musk is a dumbass and a loser. Just to be 100% clear on that. I don't want anyone to take away any other impression. If you think, and I tweeted about this a little while ago, like if you think through what, an AI utopia story instead of an AI dystopia story, what would happen if an AI were applied to the task of making everyone like get the best healthcare possible and the best healthcare possible, including goals for like exercise, socializing, mental health, and just like general life fulfillment, right? Like you can apply all the same logics and tropes that get applied to these like horror stories to this idea too, but use them in the opposite direction, right? This same AI could hack into the internet and end the economy because it considers it trivial, or hack into, I don't know, military bases and organize a world surrender so that all governments are at its will, at its whims. And what it could be using that for is because it's like, well, war is really bad for people's health, so I'm going to eliminate all wars. Borders kill by design, so I'm going to eliminate all states. You know what I mean? Like, you can apply the exact same logics in a positive direction instead.
Right.
If
well,
it was
the
somehow...
reason why they're so worried about this is because currently they're using it in the opposite direction of how can I most exploit my workers.
Right, exactly. Like an AI's conclusion, looking at the labor market, sooner or later would be that people should be living in employer-owned housing, working for free. And it's correct about that, because actually the logical conclusion of the market is slavery. Like, it is actually the same thing. It's troubling because, yeah, again, like, the task, the system that this hypothetical AI is being set to, that's what you should be questioning. And instead we get this idea of, like, wouldn't it be scary if a robot did it? And all that to say that when people are promoting AI, they're promoting the task that it's being set to. When they're warning about AI, they're warning about the task that it could be set to. And that's kind of the way the conversation... Oh my god, my camera froze again.
Oh no.
Again, at least I'm adorable in the frame that it picked. It's fine. It's all good. That's kind of where our conversation should be, I feel. And with that in mind, I just wanted to, I guess, end this short segment by looking at... Let me just get it up. Uber's UK U-turn. The exploitative gig economy employment model is not dead, but it may be at an inflection point. this is just some good news, and it's just nice to look at some good news sometimes. Basically, Uber has, in the UK, has agreed to admit that its workers are employees. And it's got such things here as challenging the false flexibility versus rights dichotomy, which is exactly the stuff we're talking about here. Because, you know, Uber employees are offered the big benefit of being able to be flexible and be your own boss and work your own hours, and they're paid total shit and have no labor protections. So what it actually means is that they have to work just round the clock to earn a living wage, which is not okay. Something that a lot of people, I think, don't know about Uber is that Uber, I think... This is one of these things that might be an outdated fact, so I'll say it like this. Last time I was aware, hadn't made a profit. And why is that? So Uber is funded by a ton of investors who know that the business model is essentially, if they put enough money in, the company can keep on offering lower ride prices than anywhere else by paying their workers less than anywhere else, and it can subsidize the difference with investor money until all other companies are choked out. That's the thing. It's deliberately trying to establish a monopoly and choke the market, and at which point it will put its prices like fucking sky high. And that's actually the Uber business model, and that's why they haven't turned a profit. But yeah, I just wanted to focus on the Uber union because there are unions in like practically every country that Uber is operating in now, trying to fight against them. And I guess the message that I wanted to get across with this short segment was just, they may pretend like new tech makes capitalism the wave of the future, but the same solutions are still solving the problems of capitalism. Organize, unionize, and give the bastards hell. Like, that's it. Just get together and organize. That's it. Like, that's what will stop them. And thank you. That was my soapbox about Uber I wanted to talk about. I guess just like next time someone's talking some shit on AI, remember it's the job that the AI has been given, not the robot. Hashtag not all robots. And this is something people are already aware of, obviously, with like things like policing algorithms that end up replicating the racial biases in policing that already exist. But at the same time, they're also just replicating the flaws in policing at all. And that's what police are looking for when they bring AI into policing, is to not have to have a conscience and not have to make tough decisions, because it's just the cold calculation of a machine instead. Anyway,
right.
Any more thoughts you wanted to get across there about this before we move on?
I was just gonna say, like, a very concrete example of this taking place is the sort of like fake sort of facial recognition that was applied after the insurrection at the Capitol to say that some of the people there were Antifa, undercover Antifa.
Right.
It's the same way in which this can be used in order to sort of bring credibility or to sort of deflect any sort of responsibility towards actually confirming and doing things correctly.
Right, and that's what I mean, is that like I don't need to look at like the data sets involved or like look into the deep error of what that like face recognition system was doing wrong there. I can tell you what the problem is. If the task it was given was figure out who amongst these were like fake Antifa plants trying to make good old Trump-loving MAGA chuds look bad, that's the problem. You were looking for them,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty good segue into our next segment.
I think it is. I think it actually is. So, this is our third segment. Thank you for sticking with us so far today, everyone. 100 viewers. That's pretty good. It's like what I was getting on my Resi 8 streams. So let's go on to our third segment, which is titled. I should be putting up like text for these titles. I've now realized that's something I could prepare before these streams because I always have those titles up. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, also we need to agree on the name of the stream. Right,
Yeah,
I'm getting
we
so
do.
distracted. Here we go.
Right.
The third segment of the day, third and final segment of the day is Recounting Arizona. We're going to be looking at the the QAnon company that's currently trying to overturn the election in Arizona. So, Jess, what links would you like me to have up on screen? You direct me, because special segment today, everyone. Jess is telling me about a thing.
Right. So I guess where would be a good place to start? So it's very complicated. And I have a PDF of like a court document that's very dry to look at. So let me see if I can find a news article actually for the recount.
So, in the meantime, the basics that I understand so far are that there is a recount going on in Arizona right now because of QAnon conspiracy theorists who believe that the election was illegitimate and that actually special good boy Donald Trump should be in charge of the country instead. And somehow, I guess Jess is going to tell us how. Oh, I keep on changing over the stuff. God damn it. I guess Jess is going to tell us how a company who is run by QAnon freaks has gotten the go-ahead to recount the votes in Arizona.
Right. Actually, what might be good is I did a Twitter thread about this. So I'll link you to that because it sort of has all of the information pretty well summed up.
Okay, I'm ready for the link.
Okay. Are you ready for the link?
I'm so ready.
Okay. There you are.
Whoa. Okay, here we go. Holy shit, something big is happening in Jess's state right now.
That's right.
Shall I read this out?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. The Arizona Senate has hired a private company to audit the county election and illegally turned over all the voting machines and ballots, all 2.1 million to them. This company... Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. This company, Cyber Ninjas, is headed by a conspiracy theorist and has never done an audit before and is not legally allowed to access voter registration ballots or voting machines. Still, the Senate has turned over all of it to them. Unfortunately, yesterday's announcement made it clear that the Senate has no intention of conducting an independent audit or ensuring the ongoing security and confidentiality of Maricopa County's ballots and voting equipment. As you know, the Senate has confirmed its hiring of Cyber Ninjas Incorporated. This firm's CEO not only harbors conspiratorial beliefs about the 2020 election, but has shared conspiracies about Dominion election equipment, the exact equipment he has been hired to audit. Great! Moreover, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer confirmed yesterday that he too would be involved in this audit. To be sure, Mr. Pulitzer is also a known and frequently debunked conspiracy theorist, to say nothing of failed treasure hunter or inventor of one of the 25 worst tech products of all time.
There's just a lot going on
Okay, now Jovan Hutton Pulitzer And please tell me it's Juicero. Please tell me it's Juicero. Please tell me it's Juicero. Please tell me it's... Known for inventing the widely criticized QCat barcode scanner.
What? Oh my god, what is that?
Okay, so QCat style QCat with a leading colon is a cat-shaped handheld barcode reader that was given away free to internet users starting in 2000 by the now defunct Digital Convergence Corporation. Oh my god, my camera froze again! Super Sweet Boy in chat saying, you couldn't make this up. You sure couldn't.
Okay, so unfortunately I don't have a news article that sort of sums everything up pretty quickly, but I'll run through the events for everyone so everyone knows what's happening. Basically, it starts with the Arizona Senate deciding to do a third-party recount of the Maricopa election. Maricopa County is the largest county in Arizona, and you could see it had 2.1 million ballots for the November election. So the Arizona Senate decided, all right, we're going to do this recount. They subpoenaed all of the voting machines, all of the ballots, all of the voter registration from Maricopa County's voter or election oversight board or whatever, wherever they got from Maricopa County. So Maricopa County then turns over everything, and the Arizona Senate just immediately flips around and I don't think even took possession of it at all. I think the company itself came to pick up the subpoenaed material from the Arizona Senate. So this is a third-party company that has never done an election audit.
Jesus Christ.
And is in no way under any scrutiny from any government organization. So there's nobody from the Arizona Senate actually at the recount. It's actually paused right now, but when it was going on,
hey, let's be fair here. Some of them could be at the what is it called? What do they call it? The crazy carnival.
We'll get to it.
Okay, but some of the senators could be there.
Some of the senators could be at the crazy fun carnival. That's true. So during the recount, there are no government officials at all verifying the integrity of sort of the ballots, the voter registration, the voting machines. There's nobody making sure that all of this is being done properly, which is why the court case that these screenshots earlier came from was filed to sort of see, how possibly they could be doing this. Because Arizona, like many states, has laws about voting and voter information and how it can be handled.
Right. Which you'd hope
weird
for, frankly.
Things.
I mean, it's
weird
kind of an important thing.
Yeah. Super strange. It's actually not unusual to have laws regarding voter information. It's pretty common, especially among women.
Oh, okay. And the Arizona State Senate is a fine old lady.
Right, exactly. So we have election laws dictating how voter information and registration and voting machines can be handled, and how they're supposed to be treated. Obviously, there's no one ensuring that is happening at the recount. So the court case was filed. The judge has since ordered the company to provide sort of a list of all of their procedures and what they're doing, just to make sure that they are following that.
Yeah.
The judge is a little bit hesitant to actually do anything about the recount itself, because according to what he had said earlier, oh, awesome, the cameras are still up. at
Well, some
the-
of them are.
the-
It's
the
an interesting
fairground.
thing. Yeah, you all can go to azaudit.org, and you can see some of the cameras.
Right. So what you're
Yeah.
seeing here is you're seeing ballots in storage, and they're supposed to be. Is that the person guarding them? Yeah. There's the guy.
little guy. There he
guarding
is.
guarding the ballots.
Aw. Not much happening here. Yeah.
Right. Oh, is that a rope hanging from the ceiling? Has someone done a
Jesus Christ.
have they rappelled from the ceiling to steal the ballots?
Yeah, maybe that guy who did a really shitty job and he didn't notice a vote thief. He didn't notice
Right.
AOC rappelling in like Mission Impossible to steal
Well,
votes.
You see, that's the kind of thing that these cameras have sort of. That's the response that they've garnered from a lot of people, because basically these cameras have been marketed towards people who believe in the conspiracy that the election was stolen and that it was rigged and that illegal ballots were cast.
Yeah.
And that actually Donald Trump won the election.
I mean,
all of them have been heavily into watching these feeds.
I should have known that all of this would be too stupid bullshit for me to even for it to even be worth me doing the research I was doing. But I've been reading, just for those who are curious, A Culture of Conspiracy by Michael Bakun, which is a really, really good book. And I took some notes for talking about this, and none of it's relevant because these people are just the worst. And okay, I suppose I could say this one. You can classify conspiracies into three types according to Bakun: event conspiracies, systemic conspiracies, and super conspiracies. And for those who aren't familiar, QAnon is kind of all of them at this point, because it's related to an event, a system, and it's like a super conspiracy that draws everything together. But I honestly don't think any of my other notes are going to be relevant now, because it's just it's just so fucking silly. This is just all nonsense that you can't make this stuff up. Oh, god damn it.
Right. So there's no oversight at all with this to how this audit is being done. So it's kind of gone all over the place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
In terms of what they are doing and what they feel they have the power to do. So earlier, sort of last week, they tried to get passwords to county. Well, you can pull it up to.
Oh, sorry.
To county internet records.
I was transfixed,
and...
wondering if that guy was alive. Okay, here we go.
Well,
sheriff goes
yeah,
ballistic
keep your
after
eyes on
Arizona
him.
recounters demand access to county passwords. Yeah, that can only go well. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Giving computer network router and password information to a firm run by a conspiracy theorist is mind-numbingly reckless. Yeah, I'd say so. Mm-hmm. That seems fair. I'm not to agree with a cop or anything, but even a stopped cop is something.
Right.
Make your own joke, you get it.
But really, this just is a pattern of sort of the authority that this company, Cyber Ninjas, thinks that they have.
Yeah.
So it's incredible what they've been doing during this audit.
Okay,
so
I suppose I can
it.
speak to that on my research a little bit. That makes a lot of fucking sense, because conspiracists generally this kind of conspiracy thinking, right? When the style is millennialism, there's going to be a great date that everything's going to change around, and there's always a lot of this around literally millennials, millennia ticking over, hence the name. But Yeah, the conclusion after like the date ticks over and it doesn't happen, Donald Trump doesn't unseal the sealed indictments and jail Hillary rotten Clinton forever, is that you have to go make it happen yourself. And then you have, like, you know, moral authority, right? Like, they're moral crusaders saving the nation from election fraud.
Right, absolutely. So one of the things that they've been testing for is they've been using ultraviolet light to look for bamboo particles on ballots.
Bamboo, because they're Chinese ballots, right?
Right. Well, that's
because they're Chinese ballots being made in a forest in China.
Right. So that's how you would tell if the ballots were fabricated overseas in China and then shipped in last minute to sort of rig the election for Joe Biden. From what I've seen, they haven't found any bamboo particles yet.
Oh no! What? What?
Right. It's interesting, right? I mean, they still have a lot of the audit to go, so
maybe they will.
Maybe that'll turn around.
Maybe they'll find some that are doused in vodka and bamboo and kangaroo hairs. Oh, I'm just trying to pick a third country for the ballots to randomly be from. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah.
That's magical.
So it's super interesting. Let me see. I think it's this article that I want to briefly talk about.
Okay. You know, this is good news for everyone who's been having a good old time with Special Orange Boy. Just because the Trump administration is over doesn't mean the laughs have to end. Doesn't mean the entertainment of the Trump era has to end. And that's a relief. What article was it, bud?
I thought it was in this article, but I can't actually find it.
Okay.
It may have been in another article that I read earlier. But specifically, the company Cyber Ninjas has this voter registration info, and they've sort of been stalled from going out to talk to voters to confirm their voter registration, which, you know, is super interesting for a third-party company to have voter information and to go verify voter information directly. But
yeah, that's pretty wild.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. There was a lot of concerns about potentially this being voter intimidation.
Yeah, I think I can see why that would be. Yep.
Right, but
yep.
recently the company came out and said that it's okay. The people going to verify voter registration will not be carrying weapons with them.
Oh my god.
So it's okay, actually. No voter intimidation will occur.
I'm so relieved.
Should they show up at your house to verify your vote?
Jesus fucking Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, like, there isn't a million things you could do, just like, you know, you just decide that, like, if they don't answer the door, then you couldn't verify it, so it's an unverified vote and doesn't count. Like, shit like this, you know, like,
right.
Yeah.
To me, what it seems like is they're just throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Right, and that makes sense.
Finding whatever kind of even, like, tenuous hint of sort of like any kind of irregularity so that they can then sort of report on it later.
Yeah. Did you vote for communist Biden? I voted for Biden to be a communist. Yeah, I'm really disappointed. I also voted for him to start taking estrogen. It didn't happen. The electoralism is broken.
Right. So during the there's still this ongoing court case in which the judge has ruled that he's not going to stop the recount from happening.
Is the judge also QAnon? Because, like, I can't imagine why something so flagrantly illegal, like, the judge would not... I don't know, maybe, I mean... This is the thing about when conspiracy aligns with political interests, because, as we covered in our very first politics stream, conspiracy is always reflective of intergroup social conflict. And as I read in American Conspiracy Theories by Joseph Parent and can't remember the other guy right now, like the Constitution, not the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence itself has conspiracy theories fucking written in, because of course there were conspiracy theories around the American Revolution. Of course there were. Like, that's, you know, because conspiracy theories reflect intergroup conflict. And so they wrote a ton of shit into the Declaration of Independence that they accused King George of planning to do, that there was no evidence of him planning to do, because he wasn't planning to do, they just made it up. But it's kind of one of those things, right? Like, this doesn't require for everyone to believe in Q, it just requires for, like... the Q freaks who are in the right place at the right time, like, their interests happen to align with other people, you know? Like the judge doesn't have to actually believe in Q himself, or themselves, is what I'm saying.
Right. And I mean, yeah, the reason the judge is, well, I guess it doesn't matter too much what the stated reason for the judge ruling the way that he does, because we see a lot with judge and justices about, you know, being originalists and being like sort of trying to interpret the laws and constitution and stuff like this. There is no objective way of doing it, so it's not actually a defense. So it doesn't really matter what the stated reason is. It does sort of align.
Right. Yeah.
As you've said.
Yeah.
Okay. So currently, I know you're wondering, we talked about it a little bit already. What's going on with it now? The audit was scheduled to end on May 14th. It is not ended. It's still going on. They didn't finish. They've done 500,000 of the 2.1 million ballots. And
so
now,
on top of everything else, they're just bad at it.
Yeah.
Like, on top of everything else. Although, arguably, like, they're probably taking more time because they're looking for bamboo fibers to prove that it's Chinese votes. Like, that probably does take longer than it normally would to just recount them.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what they're actually doing, and I wish we had the video feed to sort of explain what's happening with them. But each ballot is brought to a table in which it's put under a sort of like, it's put under a projector of some sort, where it's and comes up on, I guess, I don't know how it works exactly with how each person sees the ballot and sort of checks it for irregularities, but 4 people have to verify the ballot and like verify that there are no irregularities with it. So you have 4 people analyzing every single ballot. And I can only imagine, because again, the kind of people that you're going to get hired by this company to do this ballot checking.
Hey, I need you to come and check for Chinese fibers in case of voter fraud.
Right. So I imagine that getting all 4 people to agree on the status of a ballot is going to be near impossible, because one of them is going to be like, I don't know, the ink on this ballot looks Chinese. And then, who knows?
Yeah, I can only imagine it. Jesus Christ. Oh. Fucking hell.
There's this CNN article.
Uh-huh. Okay.
We're gonna, if you can jump down to the bottom.
Yep, I'm opening it up now. Okay.
Where it says on Thursday.
Okay, I'm gonna search on Thursday then. On Thursday, I'm gonna read. No, stop. CNN, stop it. Fuck. Okay.
Oh no.
On Thursday, Cyber Ninjas paused its review of ballots until May 24th, temporarily removing them from the Coliseum at the State Fairgrounds to make way. Come on, man. To make way for 16 high school graduations. A yearly event at the Coliseum that the Senate somehow overlooked. Bennett said the ballots would be kept under 24-hour guard at the Wesley Bolin building at the south end of the fairgrounds premises. Bennett said that guards would be posted to keep people from visiting the fair's Crazy Times Carnival, being held between the Coliseum and the Bolin building, from accessing the area where the ballots were to be housed. They're needed since the outside section of the building is being used for the carnival's public toilets. No!
Right.
No! That's so fucking good.
It is. So that's sort of what you could see on the azaudit.org website, the live stream. You're seeing the building where all the ballots, the Bolin building, where all the ballots have been stored and are under 24-hour guard.
Live from inside the Bolin building.
Absolutely.
This man is doing a Sudoku.
Right, there's the guard right there. Presumably he's on the side next to the public toilet.
That's what I assumed, yeah.
People would come in.
Yeah. I can see he's got a little gulp there. Like right that down by his chair. There we go. Good for him.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I imagine that sitting next to the public toilets watching ballots is a hard job, so
I hope he's being paid well.
I hope he's being paid well.
I sincerely do. Whatever, like it's probably really boring.
Right. Absolutely. Just fantastic though. What a lovely thing that's happening here.
Oh my god.
Okay, if you can jump to the bottom of that AP News article now.
AP News. Uh-oh. Now I'm lost. Okay, AP News. Here we go. I got it opening.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are we going from?
The hand recount started last Friday.
With Cyber Ninjas overseeing the process and former Republican Secretary of State Ken Bennett acting as the Senate's liaison to the effort. Bennett said Tuesday night that the voter secrecy was being protected and that fewer than 100,000 ballots had been counted in the previous 4 days.
This is a little bit, this is a little bit older of an article.
Mm-hmm.
They're up to 500,000 now, everyone.
But he said that the recount was on track to finish as scheduled on May 14th. It's now May 17th. We all know that isn't true. We're going to be able to tell every Arizonan in a few weeks that they can have complete integrity and trust in their elections, or we have some parts of the election that need to be improved, Bennett said. Hey, Jess, which one do you think it is? Which of those do you think it is?
I'm much more interested in what he thinks is going to happen.
That's a good question. During Thursday's court hearing, Senate Attorney Corey Langhofer told Judge Martin that oversight wasn't needed because no personally identifiable information was on the ballots and that the election has been certified, so there's no way a recount could overturn it. And of those 2.1 million ballots, the number of individuals whose votes have been discarded or not counted as a result of the audit so far is 0, Langhofer said. And we expect it to remain 0, of course. They have already been counted through the authoritative process. They've been certified. The winner of the elections have been declared.
Right. So that last paragraph sort of gets at exactly what this recount is for. It's not to overturn the election or to change the result.
Because if you're trying to overturn the election legally, you have to tell me.
Right. What they're trying to do isn't to change the legal. I think that what they're trying to do is twofold.
Yeah.
Right. First is they're trying to sort of keep alive this conspiracy that the election was stolen.
Yeah. And
the second one is they're trying. I think they're going to use this audit to later, when it's done and it comes out and we get whatever bullshit information that they come up with for how much fraud there was in the election, I think you're going to get that being used as a justification to further infringe upon voting rights and institute harsher voter suppression.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense. That makes sense that that's what they're going for. Like, yeah. Sorry.
I wouldn't be surprised if, some of the people who are involved in running this are chums with some of the people on the Arizona Senate, because this company is being paid a lot of money to do this audit.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, unfortunately. Fucking hell. I think you're right about, like, they want to keep things alive, and they're also, like, just, like, trying to make things tipped more in their favor next time.
Right. So if you want to look at some fun examples of that, if you look at the pinned messages and you jump to the ones, there's a series of pictures by it starts with woke societies.
Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, let me just go to editing, open this up. And
so this is these are all comments from people who have been watching the cameras.
Okay. So, the organization and the engagement of American patriots across the country that are watching the audit and essentially auditing the audit is so amazing to see. Fucking hell, fuck. I just saw the logo for woke societies. God fucking damn it. Fuck.
Oh yeah.
Fuck. Okay, let's get back to this. Groups are being formed all over the internet and being assigned to each of the 9 cameras. Some are making shift schedules, so every second is literally being watched, and if anything is out of place, the auditors are notified right away. This is truly unprecedented and shows these commies America will not die quietly into the night. Fuck.
And yeah, these are definitely the people I trust to know how an election audit happens and how to see if there are irregularities happening.
Why don't you read the next one and I'll read the one after?
Sure. So here's someone who has been looking at the cameras and thinks something's a little bit odd. Could be absolutely nothing, but I don't like someone on their own in the middle of everything. I am in Texas, so this happened 1:20 a.m. CST here. But in AZ, I believe it was 11:20 p.m. So this is someone up at 1:20 a.m. in Texas watching these cameras, sees someone on them, and is already into that conspiracy mindset where they're like, this has to be irregular. This is just an example of anything being able to be transformed into evidence of foul play.
All right,
so you can see there's the guy there.
I'm whipping the book out again. I've got one for this. I actually have one for this. Hang on. I'm determined to have these because I read so much of this book. I'm really enjoying it, but I read so much in preparation, and it's not been relevant at all because it's all just been gibberish so far. There was a really good definition of like because conspiracy theories are hard to define, they instead defined it by the like ways that belief functions. So a conspiracist worldview implies a universe governed by design rather than randomness. The emphasis on design manifests itself in three principles found in virtually every conspiracy theory. Nothing happens by accident. Conspiracy implies a world based on intentionality from which an accident and coincidence have been removed. Anything that happens occurs because it has been willed. At its most extreme, the result is a fantasy world far more coherent than the real world. Nothing is as it seems. Appearances are deceptive because conspirators wish to deceive in order to disguise their identities or their activities. This couldn't possibly be, I don't know, what looks like maybe a member of cleaning staff or something. That's Hillary Clinton in that picture.
Or maybe even just like an IT professional.
Yep. Yeah.
Like doing maintenance on a computer.
No, Jess. That's Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Thus, the appearance of innocence is deemed to be no guarantee that an individual or group is benign. Everything is connected because a conspiracist's world has no room for accident. Pattern is believed to be everywhere, albeit hidden from plain view. Hence, the conspiracy theorist must engage in a constant process of linkage and correlation in order to map the hidden connections. All right. Oh shit.
So a good picture example of that is the one that's the bottommost picture.
Yeah, here we go. Maricopa, Arizona audit.
No, it's actually below that one.
Oh, what? That was the last.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. There was a message in the middle of it. My bad. Okay. Okay, well, I'll read this one then. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, the entire presidential team is in Phoenix. Jill Biden is there, and the DNC team backed with global money.
Wee, dog whistle alert.
Hey man, you switched to the regular whistle and it's kind of loud. Can you just tone it down? Jesus Christ.
Right.
And and the other one said ancient Rome, Honestly, this is also an example of the same thing because it's like everything is linked in that everything has symbology, you know? So like ancient Rome, the Colosseum, gladiators fought for freedom. Arizona Colosseum in Phoenix, Americans fighting for freedom. The fight never ends. Like, it's not just being poetic in a lot of cases with like conspiracists. It's literal. It's like this has been willed. This is like our moment to also fight for freedom, like the gladiators.
Yeah, absolutely. Just an incredible occurrence that's happened here in Arizona.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything more you want to add on conspiracy.
No, I thought it was going to be way more relevant, and then it was just like this stuff is just fucking gibberish.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah, so I mean, floor is yours, really, if you have a concluding statement for this section.
I do.
Okay,
I do.
Hit me with it.
So this mainly, why I am so interested in it, is it's an example of further privatization of sort of government, typically what's reserved for the government processes.
Yeah.
So the government couldn't get what it wanted through governmental means because, whatever safeguards we have left have protected us thus far from that. But it's kind of unprecedented from what I know, for the state to hand over all of this private information, voter registration, voting machines, ballots, to a private company with no oversight at all, to audit an election. it's pretty incredible. And
Yeah.
I think that it's a little bit worrying for any kind of trends it could lead to in the future.
Yeah.
Just because, as we all know, privatization is always a good thing.
Well, capitalism is
And-
so efficient is the thing. So that's,
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll do a section on capitalism is so efficient as a thing people say. That links into what we were talking about with like the gig economy stuff. It's like people think that capitalism is so efficient, but like technologies that are otherwise useful, like the blockchain could be a useful and interesting technology if it weren't used for competitive mining, and because it is, it's gonna fucking destroy the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, what this move really does is it undermines the sort of trust people in my state can have of the secrecy and privacy of their information.
Yeah.
When it comes to voting.
Yeah.
So that's like a pretty big thing. If you are worried when you cast your ballot that someone might come to your house unarmed.
Well, yeah, I mean unarmed, to be fair.
Unarmed.
Jess, let's be fair. Let's be fair now. Unarmed.
Unarmed to, later verify your vote.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, especially if that... Right. Especially if that person not only has, like, authority from the state, but they're not even actually a part of the state. Which, honestly, I don't know if that's worse than a police officer at this point. It's hard to tell. We've given our police officers so much authority.
Yeah.
And freedom.
Right.
So, still bad. Still not good.
That's the tagline for America right now. America, still bad. Still not good.
Right, absolutely.
Okay.
So, I think that no matter what, the people of Arizona sort of counter to what has been said by Bennett, I think it was.
Right.
Who said that this will restore faith in our elections. I think this is designed to undermine faith in our elections.
Right.
So that no matter who it is, if you live here, you think that we need stricter voting laws.
Right. Absolutely.
Or even just to undermine and sort of undercut the validation of like election results.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So incredibly interesting. I can't wait to see what this leads to in the future.
Feel free to hit up the next politics stream or whenever with an update segment, like the one I'm about to provide. So I have a small surprise segment that I was intending to do as a separate stream, but regular enjoyers of the politics stream will remember that our last episode largely focused around William Henry Gates. Since our last episode, he's been kind of going through it a little bit, huh, Jess? He's been kind of having a bit of a bad time, kinda. And
right.
And
it's really messy.
If this is
He's
any
been,
testament,
talking about his breakup on Twitter.
If this is any testament to the power of our stream, Andrzej Duda will be redacted next week. But so I just wanted to look at this clip, which was being shared around a little bit. So I'm just gonna play this first. Volume up a little bit. Am I still streaming to you? I'm gonna stream to you so you can see it at the same time.
Okay.
Here we go.
The recipe for these vaccines to be shared would be helpful. And do you think that would be helpful?
No.
Why not?
Love this editing.
Oh, it's right. My camera and stuff is right over the text here. They've picked the most natural place, but then so did I. Dang it. Oh, beans. I've done the wrong thing again. Nearly there. And now. Okay.
It's an excellent example of how to stretch a half a second clip into many seconds.
Take some notes for Rolling with Rainbows.
Yeah. First you freeze frame, then you play it back a couple times.
Yep. Are we going to get to the interview? I'm going to try and go back around to this.
No.
Why not?
Well, there's only so many vaccine factories in the world, and people are very serious about the safety of vaccines. And so moving something that had never been done, moving a vaccine from, say, a J&J factory into a factory in India, that it's novel. It's only because of our grants and our expertise that can happen at all. The thing that's holding things back in this case is not intellectual property. There's not like some idle vaccine factory with regulatory approval that makes magically safe vaccines. You've got to do the trials on these things, and every manufacturing process has to be looked at in a very careful way. There's all sorts of issues around intellectual property having to do with medicines, but not in terms of how quickly we've been able to ramp up the volume here. I remember how shocked people were when we said we were going to do second sources in these developing country factories. That was a novel thing. And we got all the rights from the vaccine companies. They didn't hold it back. They were participating. I do a regular phone call with the pharmaceutical CEOs to make sure that work is going at full speed.
He does a regular call with all the pharmaceutical companies, CEOs. The
Right.
CEOs of all the pharmaceutical companies. That's who he does a regular call with. He does a regular call with the CEOs of all the pharmaceutical companies. That's oh boy.
Well, it's
let me
he's just on that call to get them to make sure that they're moving as fast as possible.
I mean, that's what he said. So, this was shared around a little bit, and it was interesting because it was like right after our stream deconstructing what he'd said in his liar bullshit book full of lies and bullshit, is the best way to describe it, read by Will Wheaton. And this was shared around a little bit, and then shortly after that it was announced that Melinda Gates was divorcing Bill. And just today, Natalie was telling me that actually it turns out that the divorce has been going on since 2019, when it first came out that Bill Gates had a personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, that she's been divorcing him since this negative, since it became public what a shithead he is. And if you kind of think about it, a lot of the, Bill Gates is going to save the world stuff, publicity-wise, really started ramping up then, too. Kind of interesting. Not to engage in conspiracy logic or anything, but it kind of seems like maybe they were up to something there. I just wanted to highlight, I guess, with this clip, how identical the logics I was pointing out from the book are and everything wrong with it as well, with what he's saying about India being unable to make safe vaccines. The book was proposing that rich countries should come up with rich white countries, should come up with green technologies so that they can lead the world economies. And that's the word he used, lead, right? Lead the world. It's very white man's burden kind of thing. We've got this crisis, and only we are equipped to deal with it. Only we are smart enough and civilized enough. And it's exactly the fucking same between climate change and the pandemic. This man, don't be fooled. This is what we were kind of getting at last time. Don't be fooled. It's not that he is also a capitalist, but, net good in the world, does a lot of good in the world, whatever. It's that he's primarily a capitalist and everything he thinks is shaped by that. And
we made AIDS medication.
Oh my goodness. And I just wanted to also show this clip that Natalie shared from The West Wing, which I thought was the best possible parallel to this to show just now. Okay.
If tomorrow we made AIDS medication free to every patient in your country, as much as they needed for as long as they needed it, it would likely...
This is the CEO of the pharmaceutical company that Bill Gates is calling with every day.
Make very
well,
little
one of them.
True.
For as long as they needed it, it would likely make very little difference in the spread of the epidemic.
Why? Anti-HIV drugs are a triple cocktail. It's a complicated regimen that requires 10 pills to be taken every day at precise times. 2 protease inhibitors every 8 hours, 2 combination RTI pills every 12 hours.
What's the problem?
They don't own wristwatches. They can't tell time.
Kill. Kill them.
They can't tell time.
It just, you can see it just pains that pharmaceutical
Hey,
executive
just
so much.
hey now. Look. Just a brief one. There we go. I just wanted to update everyone that Bill Gates has been having a shitty time since we exposed what a piece of shit he is on this stream. That's the power of this stream. So to Andrzej Duda, I say, good luck, buddy. No, I would love to have an update about shitty garbage man who sucks, Andrzej Duda, next time. This has been really fun, everybody. Fuck Aaron Sorkin, fuck Bill Gates, fuck fascists. Say hi to your mom, and have a good night. Jess, is there anything you want to plug before you go?
Fuck Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That show is ruining my life, and I'm currently working on a script for it that should be out soon. I also am working on other scripts for other videos.
Yeah.
You can find my YouTube at youtube.com/c/thatjess.
That's the one.
And I also do Twitch sometimes as well.
Cool.
And I'm on Twitter, unfortunately.
And it's my fault, and she'll never forgive me for it. We always take suggestions for the politics stream topics. I will put out a tweet probably underneath the stream announcement for this one, asking for topics. Hit me up there, and I guess we'll see you next time. To reiterate it, fuck Bill Gates, free Palestine, trans liberation now, and good night, everybody.